Well, I recently checked out something I'd completely forgotten I even had. A relic from a time when adventure characters were built through experience, not messaging. A dust-scarred academic drifter shaped by war, loss, travel, history, and confrontation with the unknown. A man defined by consequence instead of commentary. Someone whose identity wasn't explained through dialogue, but carved into him through survival, scars, curiosity, and confrontation with forces bigger than himself. And it got me thinking about how rare it is to see a legacy character expanded properly. Not rebooted, not rewritten, not replaced, not updated, but grown. Expanded outward instead of overwritten. Deepened instead of dismantled. Context added instead of foundation stripped away. Because this was a perfect example of how you expand a mythology without going on its knees for modern ideology, without turning legacy into apology content, without hollowing out the icon to make space for replacements, and without converting character growth into narrative self-flagellation. No erasure, no inversion, no deconstruction, no identity surgery, just expansion through history, continuity and lived experience. The way mythologies are actually supposed to evolve. Welcome to the Snake Pit, where we're full of bile and venom. I'm your host, Snake Damon, and today we're looking at something Hollywood has completely forgotten how to do, expanding a legacy character without destroying them. And the perfect example of that is the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, a series that didn't try to replace the icon, didn't try to subvert the myth, and didn't try to fix the character for modern sensibilities. Instead, it did the unthinkable by modern standards. It respected the mythology and expanded it through history, education, and continuity. The series was designed as an educational program for children and teenagers, spotlighting historical figures and major global events during the Progressive Era, the 1910s, and the 1920s. Each episode followed a framing device, a 93-year-old version of the character played by George Hall, living in 1992 New York, encountering people or situations that trigger memories of his past. Those memories unfold across multiple life stages. As a child, ages 8-10, played by Corey Carrier. As a teenager and young adult, ages 16-21, played by Sean Patrick Flanery. And in one episode, a 50-year-old version played by Harrison Ford. Rather than treasure hunts, the focus is on formation, identity, worldview, psychology, and experience. The younger version travels the world with his parents and tutor. The older version rebels, joins the Belgian army under a fake name, fights at Verdun and in Africa, becomes a spy, and moves through war, politics, ideology, and global upheaval. This isn't adventure for spectacle. It's adventure as character construction. The series integrates real history directly into the character's development. He doesn't just meet famous figures, he is shaped by them. Tolstoy, Freud, Jung, Picasso, Hemingway, Roosevelt, Churchill, Ho Chi Minh, Gershwin, Armstrong, Lawrence of Arabia, Pancho Villa, not as gimmicks, but as formative encounters that shape his worldview, ethics, psychology, and identity. The show doesn't rewrite history to serve the character, it lets history shape him. That alone separates it from modern franchise writing. The series adds real narrative depth to the films. His fractured relationship with his father, the roots of his independence, his distrust of authority, his moral framework, his attraction to danger, his resilience, his identity formation, his worldview, his psychological structure. It expands the myth instead of rewriting it, builds context instead of deleting continuity, adds layers instead of stripping meaning. Now, I won't pretend it's flawless. I already had two visual anchors for these characters. River Phoenix as young Indy and Sean Connery as his father. That's a hard act to follow. The kid version works. He's not River, but he's not annoying either. The father, though, doesn't match expectations at all. My personal preference would have been a more grounded childhood. Hometown adventures, a group of friends, a sidekick, local mischief, smaller scale storytelling before the world travel. Teenage Indy works better structurally. It makes sense that he leaves, fights in war, travels, and is shaped by conflict, but the show often refuses to let him stay anywhere long enough to develop rooted relationships. It's constantly moving, constantly shifting, constantly resetting location. Production-wise, though, it's impressive. For 90s television, the scale, cinematography, costumes, locations, and effects are genuinely ambitious. George Lucas used his technical advancements to give it cinematic scope. It feels big, expensive, and global. The writing is uneven. Some episodes are strong, some drag, which is very on brand for Lucas projects. But the intent is clear. Education through narrative, learning through story, curiosity through character, and that part works. It actively encourages research, it makes you pause and learn, it makes you engage with history, it creates curiosity beyond the screen, which is something modern entertainment actively avoids. Even 4 episodes in, the value is already clear. You see how he becomes who he becomes, why he hates being called junior, why he resents authority, why he rejects institutions, why he becomes independent, why he becomes restless, why he becomes who he is. This isn't myth-breaking, it's myth-building. And this is where the contrast becomes brutal. When you look at this, and then look at the recent projects Harrison Ford has been involved in, it doesn't feel like the same character anymore, not because of age, not because of time, but because of philosophy. The original films had mystical elements that weren't just fantasy, they were symbolic. Faith, fear, the unknown. The metaphysical. The idea that reality is bigger than humanity. The idea that history has layers. The idea that truth isn't always rational. The idea that the universe isn't fully explainable. Those elements gave the franchise mythic weight, spiritual gravity, existential depth, symbolic resonance. Modern storytelling strips that away and replaces it with cynicism, deconstruction, ideology, narrative, guilt, institutional framing, legacy, shame, emotional flattening, symbolic erasure, bureaucratic storytelling. Instead of wonder, you get weariness. Instead of mystery, you get messaging. Instead of myth, you get management. Instead of legend, you get lectures. The old world felt bigger than humanity. The new world feels smaller than ideology. One expands reality, the other compresses it. When you look at what we got decades ago, it still feels like indie. Not because of iconography, not because of music, not because of nostalgia, but because of identity continuity. This is how you expand a legacy character. Without erasing them, without replacing them, without deconstructing them, without apologizing for them, without rewriting them, without hollowing them out, you add context, you add history, you add experience, you add depth, you add continuity, you don't dismantle, you build. Thanks for dropping by the Snake Pit, where we thrive on untapped potential and lost opportunities. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, like the video, and leave your opinion in the comments, where naturally I won't read them. Until next time, stay venomous.